To become king, one must ascend to the throne. Each year the desert crowns its new king, one who has conquered the elements and survived to tell the tale. The king's fate is decided by a battle that has taken place annually for 40 years. And at the end, one shall stand, and the others shall fall. It is a war of endurance, of determination and courage. It is man and machine versus nature, and it takes place in one of the most arid and unforgiving environments on all of planet Earth, Australia's Red Centre. Those wanting to be king will have to conquer extreme physical and mental challenges. Challenges on terrain so treacherous and in heat so blistering, only the strongest will survive. Over 2 grueling days and 460 kilometres, they will do battle with the elements and each other to see who will become King of the Desert. And there can be only one. This is the running of the 41st Tatts Finke Desert Race. Since 1976, the Tatts Finke Desert Race has been the jewel in the crown of Australian off-road racing. Originally known as There and Back, it was first run as a challenge for local motorbike racers, but due to its increasing popularity year after year, 1988 saw the inevitable introduction of cars and off-road buggies. For 11 consecutive years, the bikes dominated their four-wheeled cousins, and as a fierce rivalry developed, the cars and buggies became more and more determined to take the crown. Finally, in 1999, a buggy took top honours, and in 2005, the King of the Desert Race was split into 2 categories that covered both bikes and cars. But despite evolving into Australia's greatest desert race, its ancestral heart will always be within the 2-wheeled variety, thanks largely to those founding bike races back in 1976. In its 41st year, 2016 sees over 400 off-road motorbike riders tackling the grueling 2-leg enduro. Beginning in Alice Springs, they race into the red unknown of Australia's outback, heading deep into the Finke Desert. Their destination, a small Aboriginal community called Apatula. Stopping overnight, the race then continues back to Alice Springs, where at the conclusion of 2 epic days, a king will be crowned. Encompassing 10 classes within the motorbike category, the premier field includes the fastest 500cc machines, with each subsequent class determined by engine capacity. Over 8,000 spectators have flocked to the event, all wanting to get up close and personal with these impressively engineered machines. Combining his love of off-road racing and music, iconic Aussie rocker Ian Moss has also returned to his hometown to take in the equally iconic race and entertain the crowd.
Yesterday was a killer from Port Augusta to Coober Pedy with headwinds, but today was just perfect finish all the way from Coober Pedy through to where we are right now, and just breathtakingly good weather, so it's fantastic. Alice Springs is my hometown, of course. Been hanging out to do this ever since the idea popped up a couple of years ago. But great cause, and yeah, great to be part of it. Yeah, playing at the start-finish line of the Finke River Desert Race, and yeah, I'll be sticking around all weekend because I've got plenty of mates to catch up with.
The list of immortals to take the Finke crown is an anthology of the greatest off-road bike riders to ever compete in sport. Ironman Toby Price has taken the last 3 Finke Desert crowns, and this year will not only be in the hunt for his 4th consecutive win, but his 5th title overall, a record equalled only by Randall Gregory, who set the benchmark over 20 years ago.
This is one hell of a crazy race out here, and it's fast, and it's you got to be on song. So we're looking forward to trying to see if we can conquer that number 5. Going double duties this weekend is going to be a lot of hard work, and we've got a big crew of people on behind this and pushing for it. So it's hopefully we don't disappoint, and we're looking forward to seeing what we can produce out of the cars in the truck and also on the bike. For sure, we're going to get a bit of a pre-run down the track. Hopefully we're near the pointy end, so it's definitely going to change a lot between where I am to the last lot of cars going through, but for sure it's definitely going to give me that little bit more of a pre-run, and looking forward to it. These boys here with the KTM side, Honda crew, Yamaha crew, they don't make it easy, so for sure we're definitely going to make sure we keep it on that stopper as long as we possibly can, and put on a good show for everyone that's sitting down that track and waiting for us to come. We're ripping by as fast as possible, so we want to put on a good show, and that's what we're here to do.
The 41st Tatts Finke Desert Race would begin with the running of the Prologue, a qualifying time trial where each rider is given an opportunity to take on the clock and test the limits. Run on an 8.3 kilometre track, the fastest times recorded would determine the starting order for day 1 of the Desert Classic, with the quickest bike starting first. A successful Prologue run is one of the most integral factors for becoming king of the desert, as the pole sitter enjoys the advantage of clean air and vision in an unforgiving environment where extreme dust and obstacles are everywhere. With his double duties in this year's race encompassing the cars as well, Toby Price would back up his car Prologue to take overall honours on his 500cc KTM, solidifying his #1 plate and proving why he's the man to beat. Riding one of the biggest stories of the event, Alice Springs local Damon Stokey would take his 450cc Honda to 2nd overall in the Prologue, a mere 8 seconds behind Price. It was an impressive showing from the local rider as he beat out more than 100 other competitors in his class. Also proving the mettle of the 450cc bikes, Jacob Smith tied for 3rd with the 500cc KTM of Ty Simmons, both only 2 seconds behind Stokey. Simmons has finished 2nd outright the last 2 years running and will be hoping for better luck when he rolls the dice 3rd time. Also from last year's podium, David Walsh would scrape in barely 1 second behind Simmons and Smith, showing the dominance of the KTMs and Hondas in the top 5. Spread over the next 10 seconds, Ivan Long, Bo Ralston and Todd Smith would take positions 6, 7 and 8, whilst Nathan Trigg would make an emphatic mark and thrash the big boys, bringing his 300cc KTM home in 9th place. Rounding out the top 10 fastest, Alice local Caleb Oricht would again prove the unrelenting nature of the competition, coming in only 2 seconds behind. The overall result saw 5 KTMs, 4 Hondas and 1 Yamaha taking top 10 honours. However, the biggest talking point was Nathan Trigg's 9th placing on his smaller machine, providing a
Finke's on another level to anything else, you know. It's very strenuous, it's very mentally draining. We spend a lot of time here practicing and learning the track, and just you know, punishing the body really. Your lower back, your legs, your shoulders, you know, they burn the whole time. So you've got to work pretty hard and keep pretty mentally focused too.
Tough, it's a big build-up, that's for sure. We spend so much time out here pre-running, and then it all comes down to that one moment. You've got to get it right.
You need to know where you can get on the gas and where there's big holes that you need to watch out for. So yeah, it's much time as you can spend down there, it's the better. You don't get to sit down a whole lot, you know, there's a couple of big straights and a few corners you get to sit, but you know, I reckon 80-85% of the time you're standing, so pretty taxing and tolling on the legs, and you know, you're trying to ride even harder than what you are practicing on race day, so yeah, physically and mentally, mate, it's pretty taxing, that's for sure, and then you know, you get to camp down there at night and do it all again the next day.
With the cars and buggies having already completed their first leg of the Tatts Finke Desert Race, the time had now come for the bikes and quads to face the Finke. The Prologue had set the starting order for day one, and with the riders assembling late in the morning, Australia's greatest desert race would soon be underway. Pole sitter Toby Price had already run in the cars and buggies category and would just make it back to Alice Springs to begin his two-wheeled campaign. Day one is a 226 kilometre long drag from Alice Springs to Finke, right on the fringe of the Simpson Desert. With daytime temperatures approaching 30 degrees even in winter, riders will battle the toughest terrain that the Aussie outback can throw at them, navigating whoops and jumps that send them airborne and encountering trees, stumps and rocks that in the blink of an eye can end their campaign or worse. And it all takes place at up to 150 kilometres per hour. Without the luxury of a cabin or navigator, the bike riders of the Finke Desert Race will confront even harsher conditions than their four-wheeled cousins. It is a game of physical and mental toughness, coupled with split-second reflexes and manoeuvres, making for an unprecedented challenge in the world of off-road racing. The top 20 bikes would start in pairs every 60 seconds, with the remaining riders flagged through in frenetic groups of 10. Beginning where he left off last year, Toby Price would start first alongside the 450cc bike of Damon Stokey. Back in 1976, Jeff Curtis took the inaugural Finke Desert crown, and today, 40 years later, Price would lead the now 400-strong pack of bikes out of the Alice and into the desert. 1 minute later, the tied pairing of Jacob Smith and Ty Simmons would hit the dirt, chasing Price and Stokey into the outback. Next up, the dual 500cc KTMs of David Walsh and Ivan Long would go head-to-head, furiously battling for track position with 226 kilometres remaining. New South Welshman Bo Ralston and Todd Smith would launch next, providing another manufacturer's showdown, this time between the 450cc Yamaha and Honda machines. Rounding out the top 10 starters, South Aussie Nathan Trigg would be paired with Alice Springs local Caleb Oryx. Trigg's smaller 300cc machine was the talk of the Prologue, and he'd go toe-to-toe with Oryx's more powerful 450cc Honda. Sam Davey and Luke Hayes would follow 1 minute later, Davey sporting the first of the Sherco-built bikes. Queensland's Ricky Lane and WA's Jake Smith would leave together in 13th and 14th, with Lane riding the first of the Husaberg off-road machines. The next pair would see Jack Simpson on the first 250cc machine, dicing with Ryan Cossins on his bigger Honda 450. Following on, another 250cc bike would begin the Finke campaign, with Mark Grove in control. He was partnered with Kent Collins on the booming KTM 500 EXC. The final pairing would see Kenny Armstead and Josh Tilbrook on evenly matched KTM and Honda 450s. And with that, the 41st Tatts Finke Desert Race would well and truly be underway. 67 kilometres in at Deep Well, Toby Price was spearheading the assault to Finke, extending his lead over starting partner Damon Stokey by 45 seconds. Back in Alice Springs, groups of 10 were being flagged through, with over 350 riders beginning the perilous trek to Finke. The sheer number of bikes would compound the frenetic nature of the Finke Desert Race, with every rider fighting tooth and nail for racing room. At the second checkpoint, almost 100 kilometres in at Rodinga, it was again Toby Price setting the pace, extending his lead even further over the pack. With his lead over second place sitter David Walsh now just under a minute, Price would continue to push the limits of his KTM 500 EXC. With the terrain now becoming increasingly difficult and the outside temperature peaking, average speeds had slowed from over 130 kilometres to now just 110. The technically challenging landscape would play into the hands of the more experienced riders, with Ty Simmons overtaking Damon Stokey after posting the second fastest time for that sector. After hanging up his racing boots in 2013, Simmons returned with a vengeance, finishing on the podium in his very first Finke Desert Race, and this year he's in the hunt for another.
Yeah, it's completely different, mate, to be honest. You know, with the speeds, that's just, the major factor, the speeds that we get up to out here. The track roughness. Obviously, we've ridden some rough tracks in the motocross years, but, you hit them at completely different speeds a lot faster. So just a big learning curve for me, mate. But, last year was really good. We got a decent result and had a lot more time to prepare and get ready for this race this year. So, yeah, just the speed and the roughness, at the speed that you're coming at things is more so the biggest difference. I think definitely track knowledge was a big thing for me last year. I wasn't too sure, but I definitely did get lucky with Walsh. He had a mechanical failure last year, so I was running third up until that. Just Prologue as well. I killed myself there last year. I think I was ninth, so I was battling dust all the way down, and on the way back I think we're only 45 seconds to a minute off Toby, so it wasn't too bad, but it was too late in the game. So for me, mate, is to put down a solid time tomorrow, try and be at least on that first row, if not the second, and be dust free and get a good clean run down and back, and hopefully we can be on his tail, if not in front. I don't think it's going to be physical driving the truck. I don't think it's going to be too bad, but just his concentration levels with driving and paying attention, I think that's going to be a little bit draining on him over the whole weekend. But physical fitness wise, I think he's fine. He knows the track off by heart for both buggy and the bike, and he's got one of the best, or the best bike out there with KTM with us. So yeah, I think he should be fine. Yeah, I think if there's anyone to do the job, it'll be Toby. Just a lot of time up here, mate. Like I've done, sort of anywhere upwards from 5,000 k's since January. Just spent a lot of time up here riding. I've been here for 3 weeks now, just preparing and getting ready, and just trying to make sure everything, every stone's unturned. Make sure we've done everything possible. Body feels good, bike feels amazing. Just like I said, mate, counting down the days and hours so I can get on the bike and get it happening. With last year, like I said, I got pretty lucky. If I can get the same result again, but deserve it and earn a lot more, I'll be stoked, if not better. The crowd and everything's here now, but it's just trying to go back to practice, and it's just another day on the bike. Just got to make sure I do everything right. Cross all the T's, dot all the I's, like we have been with practicing. I feel awesome down the track. Feel like I can't put a foot wrong, hitting all my sections right. So for the race, it's just trying to factor everything else out, trying to switch off and just go and be me and do what I do down the track, like we have been.
Facing less turns and longer straights in the third sector at Bunduma, the race pace would increase as day one was reaching its halfway point. Toby Price still had a stranglehold on the race lead, giving absolutely nothing away in his quest for a record-tying 5th King of the Desert. He was flying faster than any of his rivals, with an average speed approaching 120 kilometres per hour and a sector time 30 seconds quicker than his closest competitor. Despite putting in a faster time, Ty Simmons would still trail David Walsh in second place. However, Simmons had closed the gap overall to just now 9 seconds and would continue to push Walsh hard as their KTM 500 duel stretched on. Walsh's race pace had slowed slightly in the 43 kilometre sector, allowing Simmons to slowly reel him in with only 86 kilometres to go. Back in the 400 strong pack, the multitude of classes would do battle. As well as the Premier 500cc and 450cc classes, 8 other classes would punch on in a tradition 40 years in the making. Showcasing off-road bikes and quads of different engine capacities and sizes, the Finke Desert Race includes bikes up to and over 250cc, age-determined classes ranging from veterans to seniors, and 2 quad bike categories for those over and under 40 years of age. With hundreds of riders hitting such a merciless track, fitness is paramount. Josh Green finished 3rd on the podium in last year's race, but due to an injury sustained earlier this year, could not compete in the 2016 edition. That hasn't dented the Yamaha Ace's resolve though, and he's here supporting the famous blue and whites.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't line up this year. First round of nationals this year in March, I blew my knee out, and I tried to race through the year and just kept making it worse and making it worse. So yeah, 4 weeks ago we decided to pull the pin for the year and had a full knee reconstruction, and I'm just on the mend now, trying to get ready for next year. You've just got to keep focusing on what's coming, what's ahead. The tracks change, you know, after the cars and buggies. I mean, I wear earplugs just to drone out a bit of the wind noise and a bit of the noise, and just so I can really focus in on what's going on.
With only 48 kilometres to go in day 1 of the Tatts Finke Desert Race, the leaders pass through the last checkpoint at Mount Squires to begin the final stretch of the gruelling 226 kilometre gauntlet. Toby Price was throwing everything he had at the Finke, bringing the 2016 Dakar champion within striking distance of victory. With the run home an undulating and precarious final test, his top speed dropped to just over 100 kilometres per hour, down from 130 k's in the previous sector. Only 9 seconds behind him, Ty Simmons had finally caught David Walsh, proving why he took 2nd spot on the podium at last year's event. Simmons blitzed Walsh by almost 40 seconds, knocking him down to 3rd. Also putting in a quicker time than Walsh, Damon Stokey had cemented his place in the top 5, but still trailed Walsh by his overall time. With consistency, patience and a bit of luck on his side, 11th place sitter Ryan Cossins would take Davy's place in the 10. Crossing the finish line with a time of just over 1 hour and 53 minutes, Toby Price would put in another epic performance and lead the entire bike field heading into day 2. His ride to Finke was made even more impressive considering he'd already contested the car category earlier in the day and had finished 5th outright.
I've got some really good, strong competitors in front of me, so look, my main goal I've set out to do is just to finish both. I'd really be pumped to finish on both and try and be on the top step on the bike, but look, we'll wait and see. It's just anything can happen, and as long as we can get a good clean run back home in the truck, another good clean run on the bike, we'll just see where it puts us. I'd love to be on the podium in the cars, but that's a fair call as well. There's, like I say, there's good, strong guys in front of me. I was starting to expect that the track was going to be a lot rougher on the bike, and which it was. So it definitely opened my eyes to what we were coming in for on the bike on the 2 wheels. But being on the 4 wheels, I definitely had some good line selections, and Kyle was pretty pumped. And he goes, "I think you know this track pretty well." So he said, "I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride." So it was rad to have him in there. He's been a really good navvy, and especially up there, the Friday putting on his roof, and he's still climbing in the thing with me and putting all his trust in me. It's an amazing effort.
Almost 2.5 minutes back, Ty Simmons would cross the line in 2nd place, making it a KTM 1-2 on the podium once again.
Struggled off the start. Smithy got me on the jump. I sort of miscounted the yellow one, so really rookie mistake. Yeah, and then I sort of didn't get him till the end of Prologue, but we got a bit of clear room, and yeah, just pumped up, mate, and got really tight and struggled pretty bad to the 80-90k mark. And then around that area, I thank crikey, I loosened up and just got back into the rhythm and riding how I know I can up here. And yeah, we had good fuel stops and got through the whoops, and this last bit all fine. So yeah, just a bit bummed with myself with that start, mate. Yeah, anyway. It is what it is. I'm here in one piece, and we're starting 2nd tomorrow. Yeah, Toby's 2 minutes up in front of me, and I think Walsh is a minute behind, so it's good to go 1, 2, 3 with KTM. But you know, like you said, we're only halfway. There's a long way to go, and anything can happen. So yeah, just going to focus on me, mate, and you know, try and start my race a bit better than what I did today. And
yeah, try and have a good clean run home and get the job done.
Just over a minute behind Simmons, Northern Territorian David Walsh would fend off Damon Stokey's final sector assault. Despite Stokey's quicker sector time, Walsh's overall race time made all the difference. And after almost 2 hours of hectic action, Walsh secured third place by only 20 seconds and made it an all KTM podium.
I definitely wanted to be on the first 3 grids, which I got, so I was pretty happy about that. Obviously would have liked to have been a bit further up, but 5th was pretty good from where I had to start. So, I mean, it wasn't too much dust today, which was good, so hopefully I can do a bit better tomorrow, just get my lines in a bit better and chase these boys down. Look, we're all here racing for number 1. No one's going to tell you any different, so it would be nice to get it, but you know, just to be on the podium would be great with you know, the likes of Toby and Ty. They're both awesome dirt bike riders, so it'd be nice just to be up there with them.
Wrapping up the top 10, Ivan Long managed to hold on to 5th place, while Jake Smith and his smaller Honda 450R finished only 30 seconds behind in 6th. Bo Rolston couldn't manage to claw back any positions following his woeful final stretch and finished day 1 in 7th. And with Todd Smith falling off the pace during the run home, he would finish a further 4 minutes back. Luke Hayes clung on to 9th place on his 500cc KTM, while Ryan Cossins leaped into the final spot in the top 10, following a final sector time only 4 seconds behind Hayes.
I had a good start, got the jump on Ty, and then he actually passed me just before we got out of the arena, which probably worked out to be a good thing. You know, I just tried to jump on the back of him and struggled early, just tried to get into a groove and set my own pace, and you know, it took me a while to get into the race, and you know, after the first fuel stop I sort of got into a good rhythm and mate, just did my best, to be honest, went as fast as I could, and you know, it's probably a little bit off the pace, but yeah, we're in the top 5 and still in the hunt, so you know, it's not all doom and gloom, and we'll turn around tomorrow and pin it home and see how we go. You know, we just regroup tomorrow, start fresh, and you know, just hold that thing wide all the way home, and hopefully we can get it on the podium. You know, that's always the plan, and you know, we'll just sort of take care of our own race and see how we end up. So yeah, it's all good.
At the start, first 60, I wasted a little bit of time, or quite a bit of time, battling with Todd Smith, but yeah, then got a flow and had a good flow through the whoops and end up catching and passing Longy, and then near the end, probably 50, 60 Ks out of Fink, I fried a clutch and thought my race was over, but the boys will rebuild the bike and sort the clutch out, and I'm just going to have to come out swinging tomorrow. The whole team, we put so much work into it, never had a drama like this, all the testing, all the pre-running. Physically I feel good, a bit disappointed, but yeah, we'll come back tomorrow.
With Toby Price's victory on day 1, he would have a whole 2.5 minute head start on day 2, with 2nd place Ty Simmons looking for an upset. David Walsh would be in the hunt to go one better this year after finishing 2nd to Price in 2014. And after taking 1 and 2 in 2013, brothers Todd and Jacob Smith will be starting day 2 with a very steep climb ahead. The class results after day 1 sees Damon Stokey ruling the 450cc field, while the 300cc class has Nathan Trigg on the top step. Jack Simpson took the 4-stroke 250 honours, with Cody Ryan taking the 2-stroke 250s. In the Masters, Mark Sladek is perched on top, while Brandon Kinehus leads the seniors. Jamie Harrison finished 1st on day 1 in the veterans category, and in the quad bikes, Cooper Van Vliet narrowly won the under 40s, with Eddie Tattingham taking the over 40s. Out the front, however, it was Toby Price leading the way in the Premier category, with Team KTM behind him.
Since Toby is a rider, our factory rider, I decided with short notice time to come to watch out what he's doing here. Also to keep to my promise to Mr. Leask, because we had a gentleman agreement. I'm coming to the Finke, him coming to the Dakar. And so I decided like last Monday to come and jumped into the plane, and I'm here. I guess it's typical Australian race, which is good enough and fair enough. But I love it. I love it. You know, I love racing. I love motorbikes, cars. So it's fantastic. And actually, I was talking to Jeff before, to Mr. Leask, and I think, you know, Dakar is big, Maroc Rally is big, but this is for sure one of the biggest things I've seen so far. Yeah, you know, I'm a lucky guy. I was in the helicopter today, so I could see Toby from the top, and that's amazing. You know, if you see the guys racing from another perspective, because normally I'm always on the bottom. So that's fantastic, and I think also if you see, you know, the KTM crew here working in the same way like my team is working, it's a confirmation that KTM is a big family.
With day one of the Tatts Finke Desert Race in their history books, those who survived the gauntlet would reassemble in the remote desert community of Apatula, ready to tackle day two and the return run to Alice Springs. Day one victor Toby Price had already completed his 2 legs of the cars and buggy section of the event, finishing an astonishing second outright. Price would have to make a quick dash back to Finke in order to compete in the bikes to defend his King of the Desert crown. The start times would be determined by their splits on day one, with Price having a massive 2.5 minute head start on second place sitter Ty Simmons, his arch rival who also finished second to him in last year's race. Unlike day one, only the top 10 would begin based on their race times, with the remaining riders starting in groups. Finishing second to Price in the 2014 edition, David Walsh took third in yesterday's initial leg and would start today just over a minute behind Simmons. As the clock struck 11:30 a.m, Toby Price was waved through and the final leg of the 41st Tatts Finke Desert Race would be underway. With a target on his back, 226 kilometres would stand between him and a record-tying 5th Desert Crown. Anxiously waiting for a grueling 2.5 minutes at the start line, Ty Simmons would begin his final leg of the 2016 race with a mammoth task ahead. Starting third, David Walsh would also have Price in his crosshairs, wanting to get one back on him for 2014. Damon Stokey would start fourth, barely 20 seconds after Walsh, the first of the 450cc bikes to hit the desert. In what would seem like an eternity, Ivan Long would have to wait another 2.5 minutes before beginning his leg, watching Stokey and the top 3 disappear into the outback. The 2013 runner-up Jacob Smith would start just over 30 seconds later, followed by Bo Ralston exactly 3 minutes after. Taking the King of the Desert crown 3 years ago, Todd Smith's bad luck in day one would relegate him a further 4 minutes down the starting order, with Luke Hayes following soon after. Rounding out the top 10, Ryan Cossins would be flagged through a monster 18.5 minutes after the pole sitter Toby Price, proving that in this race, time is everything. The remaining 340 bikes and quads would again begin in groups of 10, only 1 minute separating each pack, making for a very busy bunch of backmarkers. "48 kilometres in at the first checkpoint, David Walsh was putting in a blistering pace, outrunning Toby Price by 20 seconds at the split. Price would still lead the race, but Walsh had already narrowed his lead with 180 kilometres still to go. Also turning up the heat on the big dog, Ty Simmons would pass through less than 10 seconds behind Price, closing the champ's lead even further. Right on Simmons' heels, Damon Stokey and his 450cc Honda would streak through the Mount Squires checkpoint. The top four riders separated by only 35 seconds. Making the biggest waves, however, was Caleb Orecht, moving up 4 positions to land in 7th overall. Only 2 seconds behind, Luke Hayes was consolidating his position in 8th, whilst the 300cc KTM of Nathan Trigg had blasted back into the top 10, outperforming many of the more powerful machines. Ryan Cossins would maintain his grip on 10th place, but well behind him was 2013 King of the Desert Todd Smith, and with his bad luck on day 1, the former champ would be hoping for an improved performance given his reputation for furious racing.
I'd love to get back on the podium this year. Like I'm coming back from injury and stuff. I'm not really, I know that I'm going to be quick, but I'm not really expecting to beat everyone. But I'll just like to be able to bring it home safe and on the podium. If I ride to my potential, I'm sure we'll be up there. We're just, Jake and I have been working with a personal trainer back home this year, and it's really helped out a lot. Just pushed us that extra bit, and it's worked on a few areas that you never really work on when you're doing things on your own. And work the bike handling well, which is a big thing. If you're comfortable on the bike, it doesn't beat you up too bad. It makes it a lot easier too. As soon as I put my helmet on, I'm just concentrating on the racing, riding, what I'm doing. Nothing ever else really comes into my mind. So that's sort of one thing that has never bothered me throughout my career. Just when the helmet's on, the throttle goes on. So I think if we can just ride to our potential, and if we can get up there and sort of compete with him, I think the truck might take it out of him a little bit, hopefully. But you never know. Yeah, he's had a bit of an injury too, so I think we're all riding pretty good this year.
Crossing Sector 2 at Bunduma, Toby Price would again be under attack, falling to 3rd for the overall times on day 2. Ty Simmons had the throttle cranked wide open, laying down the quickest time, more than 20 seconds faster than Price. David Walsh was also flying past Price, gaining a further 10 seconds on the champ and recording the top speed of the sector. Price's race time for day 2 was significantly off day 1, but the reigning king still led overall, his blistering pace from day 1 making all the difference. Damon Stokey maintained his strong 4th placing, but coming up furiously in 5th, Bo Ralston had cut Stokey's lead in half over the course of the 2nd sector, gaining almost 30 seconds on the Honda 450. Jacob Smith was just over a minute further back from Ralston, maintaining a sizable gap on the remaining top 10 riders. Engaging in a do-or-die battle for 7th, Caleb Orecht was desperately defending against the advances of Luke Hayes, with now only 1 second between them. Hayes was only 2 seconds off in the last sector and had now slowly closed the gap. Ryan Cossins and Nathan Trigg were dicing for 9th and 10th place throughout the sector, with Cossins narrowly taking the lead over the smaller 300cc machine of Trigg. Back in the remainder of the pack, the action was fast and furious, with more than 300 riders all battling for their piece of the track. As day 2 of the 41st Tatts Finke Desert Race reached its halfway point, David Walsh was again out front, making up huge chunks of time, going 10 seconds quicker than both Ty Simmons and Toby Price. Although Price still led in outright time, it was Simmons who was gaining the most ground, closing Price's 2.5-minute lead to just 1.5 minutes. With less than 100 kilometres to the checkered flag in Alice Springs, time was quickly running out for Simmons, and he'd have to press on even harder if he was to catch the 4-time champion. Battling for 4th position, Damon Stokey and Bo Rolston would continue their back and forth jousting. Rolston's machine was the only Yamaha in the top 10 and was quickly gaining on the Honda, shaving 10 seconds off Stokey's lead. Leading Yamaha's Finke campaign this weekend, Rolston suffered clutch issues on day 1, but today he was powering back into contention.
Well, we've got a new bike, the new WR450. The bike is unreal, and myself, we've just spent a heap more time out here just pre-running up and down the track, testing, developing the bike, and I think we're a long way ahead of last year. Basically, just a lot of hours up and down the track. You get really mentally fatigued focusing at those high speeds for that long. It's just, you can't prepare for it other than doing hours up and down the track, and we've spent a lot of time out here doing that. The cars make a mess of the track, so I guess we've just got to be smart about our line choices and keep it together and keep clear-minded down the whole track so we can make good choices with lines and stuff.
With only 67 kilometres to go, Toby Price would finally bounce back out the front, blitzing both Simmons and Walsh in the run to the line. His overall lead on Simmons was 90 seconds coming into Rodinga, and now, at Deepwell, he had stretched it back out to an almost insurmountable 2 minutes. Sitting in second outright, Simmons had made crucial gains over David Walsh in the last 30 Ks. After streaking ahead early in the day, Walsh was now falling off his early race pace and had Damon Stokey snapping at his ducktail for 3rd spot on the podium. Less than a minute behind, Bo Rolston was sitting comfortable in 5th, having left his nearest rival Caleb Auricht in the dust. Coming into Deepwell in 6th, Jacob Smith's Finke race had reached its bitter end, with issues forcing the New South Welshman out of the event. Another scalp added to the ever-growing list of Finke casualties. Fighting tooth and nail for the entire race distance, Luke Hayes and Ryan Cossins were relentless in their assault on each other, with Cossins closing the gap as the 460-kilometre race approached its crescendo. Going toe-to-toe with the faster bikes, Nathan Trick would cap off an impressive showing this year, nailing the Prologue and staying in contention all weekend long for a top 10 finish. But as he has done before, Team KTM's Toby Price would hold off a rampaging Ty Simmons, coming into Alice Springs, making history as only the 2nd rider ever to win 5 Tatts Finke Desert Race crowns. Only 4 seconds quicker than Simmons in the final stretch, it was his epic Day 1 performance that delivered him the gold, cementing his place in history after 460 epic kilometres.
In the dozen, the other 11 get something from nothing. Life lessons come 1 in a dozen, the other 11 get something from nothing. Life lessons come 1 in a dozen, the other 11 get something from nothing. Life changes, just open the door. One thing's certain, I'll always be yours. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you. Is this really happening? I can't be too sure, but one day I'll be yours. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you. Is this really happening? I can't be too sure, but one day I'll be yours.
After 2 epic days of racing, the class result sees Damon Stokey taking 450cc honours, with Nathan Trigg dominating the 300cc category. Jack Simpson blasted home with the 4-stroke 250 crown, with Cody Ryan tightening his grip in the 2-stroke 250s. Mark Slater continued his impressive form to take the Masters class, while Brandon Kinehus took the honours in the seniors category. The veterans saw Paul Tam come from behind to secure the gold, and in the quad bikes, Dutchman Mark de Vries won the under 40s and Eddie Tattingham the over 40s. But the weekend belonged to the reigning king, Toby Price, once again putting in a dominant performance to equal the record of 5 King of the Desert crowns, a feat matched only by one other man in its 41-year history. After winning Dakar earlier in the year, Price would firmly cement his reputation as the world's preeminent off-road racer.
It's been a long day, but one hell of an awesome day. I can't complain one little bit. So I didn't know where I was in the truck. I only passed one truck on the way home at about 40k June, and I thought it put us in 4th, and then I parked down the end and got out, and the boys told me I was in 2nd, so I was like, oh yeah, I was over the moon with that, couldn't believe it. But then I straight into the plane and straight back to go on the bike, and had to shut off with that and put our head into riding the bike home. We pushed hard where we knew we could, and then the whoops and stuff, we just took it nice and easy, and we've got home in a pretty good time. Have 5 on the bike and 2nd in the truck outright, and 1st in class. The one didn't get the double, but I suppose I can't do that in the first year, and it doesn't make it a challenge for the 2nd year if I have another crack. It was a hard weekend, but at the moment, I'm probably like, I'm happy where I've situated myself in those 2 classes, but give me a couple of days. It's exactly like the Dakar, so it's you don't want to ever go back to Dakar after another 2 months, but then right now I'm burning to go back to Dakar and ready for it, and then I guess I'll definitely be getting the same feeling to come back here and try and do the double.
Well, he's created a bit more history, so he seems to be having a talent at that lately. But no, look, we're just over the moon. We're just blown away that he's achieved, what he has over this weekend. It's been phenomenal.
It's good that Tobe sort of relates to little kids and trying to push the sport onto other people, that hopefully other kids will follow through knowing Tobe's story.
He's a great ambassador for the sport, and I just take my hat off to, like the time that he does spend. He doesn't like to see anyone miss out. He went through every one of them, so it was with photos and signings, so it was huge. That was great.
I definitely felt like I worked for it and I deserved it this year. I got lucky with Walshy. Having an engine fail last year, I sort of got given it, but I felt like I worked my ass off and deserved it this year. Not just me, all 3 of us. Toby killed us while she was there, and it's just good to go that number 2 again and go 1, 2, 3 as a team. So couldn't ask anything more. Bar number 1, it was as good as I thought. I had a couple of big moments, like got out of control and ran off the track, and nearly put it down. But thank crikey, I held it together and kept it running on the way home. So this pump that's done, mate. That last 30k's is the worst. You can hear stuff that wasn't there before, and it just it's definitely a brutal race for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to get back on the podium. I just don't know what I have to do to catch these 2 big reptiles up in front of me, but it was a good run, and I'm happy that the KTM's have gone 1, 2, 3. It's great for the team, and just shows how positive and how good our bikes and machines actually are. And suspension that Stephen Greenfield does, GDR, it's absolutely incredible. It's awesome. I felt a lot faster on the way home than what I did on the way there. I was a bit disappointed with my ride there. I had a get off at the 90k and sort of lost my head for a bit for about 80k's there, so I was a bit disappointed in that, but I come home pretty strong, so I'm happy with that. Got all the family up from Vic, and it's just great. It's good to be able to do it.
After 2 days and 460 kilometres, 41st Tatts Finke Desert Race had been run and won. 385 bikes and quads would start, but only 329 would survive. With over 500 entries across cars, buggies, bikes and quads, it continues to be one of the most alluring and challenging desert races on the face of the earth.